President Trump says that he will review the controversial murder case against former U.S. Army commando Mathew Golsteyn. Last week, Golsteyn was charged with killing a man in Afghanistan back in 2010. Now, the man was suspected of killing 2 U.S. Marines.
Yesterday, the president called Golsteyn a military hero in a tweet. David Martin is at the Pentagon with the legal implications President Trump interfering could have.
He was lucky enough to survive war and has come home to be ripped apart by his own government.
On Sunday, Julie Golsteyn expressed frustration at the charges facing her husband, Major Mathew Golsteyn. Less than an hour later, President Trump tweeted he would review the case. Major Golsteyn was leading a detachment of Green Berets in Afghanistan in 2010, operating with U.S. Marines, 2 of whom had been killed by a roadside bomb. An Afghan suspected of making the bomb was captured, and according to Army documents, Golsteyn later admitted that because he didn't have enough evidence to hold the Afghan, he, quote, assassinated him, end quote, had no qualms about what he did because he couldn't have lived with himself if the suspected bomb maker would have killed another soldier or Marine. His attorney, Philip Stackhouse, denies Golsteyn said that.
Matt participated in an ambush that resulted in the killing of a Taliban bomb maker. An ambush is what it was.
The Army conducted an investigation, and Golsteyn was stripped of a Silver Star, kicked out of Special Forces, and ordered discharged from the Army. But no formal charges were filed. Then, 2 years ago, during an interview with Fox News, he was asked about the killing.
Did you kill the Taliban bomb maker?
Yes.
That triggered a second investigation, which led to the recent charges.
What is it like going from war hero to accused war criminal? Are you angry?
No. It has been incredibly painful, very difficult.
Rachel VanLandingham is a law professor at Southwestern Law School, as well as a retired lieutenant colonel in the military. Thank you so much for being with us. This is such a tricky case, and I'm wondering, now that the President of the United States has weighed in, how could that affect the outcome?
Well, obviously, every American, including every American soldier, enjoys a presumption of innocence in the military justice system and in the criminal law system here. But no one is immune from a full and fair investigation when they've confessed to a war crime. The Army has an absolute duty to investigate these allegations and to prosecute if warranted under longstanding United States law and international law. And the President of the United States, as the commander-in-chief of our armed forces, has a moral and legal duty to allow the military justice system to run its course. He needs to trust the system, trust the substantial due process, the substantial procedural safeguards that provide due process for the major, the due process that he deserves, that every American soldier deserves. If the military justice system, for some reason, has some irregularity or some legal unfairness, there are numerous safeguards already built into the system, such as appellate review. And at the end of the day, the president enjoys the power to pardon, the power to grant clemency. But it's incredibly important to the armed forces, to both the discipline of the military and to the efficiency of the military on the battlefield, to allow the military to investigate, as it has a legal duty to do. And the president of all people needs to set that standard and not signal to the military that they should not be investigating allegations of war crimes.
Rachel, I want to take a step back. No doubt most people agree that, when there's a war, things that we would find unsavory in peacetime goes on. But this is being called it's gone back and forth between calling Golsteyn a war hero to somebody who committed a war crime. Can you just explain to us what exactly is a war crime? How do you violate the rules of war?
Absolutely. And Major Golsteyn may be both. He may be both a war hero for his incredible valor on the battlefield and a war criminal if he killed a detainee in his custody. The wars have always been regulated by law so that they don't degrade to utter destruction and recklessness, which would impede efficiency, the ability to win a battle. So the laws of wars, there are numerous laws of war, but serious violations such as torturing or killing someone that's already in U.S. custody is a long-standing, centuries-old war crime. And it's one that we have a legal duty to both. The United States has a legal duty to investigate and, if appropriate, if the facts bear out, to prosecute. And of course, the government would have the burden of proving every element that there was an unlawful killing beyond reasonable doubt. Military members are allowed to kill. We train our members to kill. We train them to do horrible things in battle, but we train them to do it so they can come back with their moral compass intact. And that the way they ensure that their moral compass remains intact is to do it lawfully. And lawful killing means killing combatants on the battlefield. It means killing individuals that are shooting at our soldiers, obviously, but it does not mean harming individuals that are already in our custody. And that's where the facts really need to be investigated and borne out. If this individual was not in U.S. custody and he was a member of the enemy forces, he was Taliban, then of course the killing was lawful. If he was already in our custody, there was a moral and legal duty, long-standing under United States law. The United States helped develop the law in this area to safeguard that detainee. And the Army the Army would be criminal if it was not investigating.
You point out some really important facts here, Professor, including the conventions of war, the rules of war that have been used in not only our country, but in countries all around the world, the Geneva Convention rules. And I wonder, though, is there some leeway for individuals who may be suffering in hindsight from PTSD, or because I know that these things have happened. I mean, people can remember back in 1968, the My Lai massacre, and the arguments that were used by some of the soldiers who were charged there, that they were, under enormous stress given the conditions that they were fighting in. Is that something that will go into factoring what kind of justice is served?
It absolutely will be factored in, but it won't be factored in until the sentencing phase. PTSD and mental illness does not change the actual facts on whether or not there was a murder or not, whether or not there was premeditated murder. But the United States military has an absolute duty to ensure its service members receive appropriate mental health counseling, and the military justice system takes that mental health counseling as the criminal justice system does overall into the sentencing. However, if there was an insanity plea, that would factor into or in some kind of insanity defense factor into the actual guilt phase, but that hasn't been raised here whatsoever.
Rachel, thank you so much.
Really interesting. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much.